This camera may be the single-handed best designed camera ever made. Okay, so sadly I've never actually gone in depth about any Polaroid cameras, be it 600, SX-70, 300 film, but that's going to change today, talking about the SX-70. So I don't think we can continue talking about the camera without talking about design first. The camera is a collapsible, small, and actually doesn't even appear to be a camera. The camera folds up into a unique triangular shape that is a great conversation starter regardless of the photos it produces. The camera released in 1972 and ended up having a variety of different models, including a fully automatic one. On the front you have the focus wheel, which on a Polaroid having a manual focus is actually really nice. The close focus distance on this camera is extremely close too, which is really nice. Beneath the actual exposure wheel is the shutter button, which is big red and very obvious to the eye. On the other side of the camera you have an exposure control, which is the only way to manipulate the camera. Otherwise the camera shoots at f8 and shoots between 1/175th of a second to 10-second shutter speeds. Which, shooting at 160 ISO, the range of this camera without a flash can be quite tricky to nail down. But as everything, practice makes perfect with this camera despite its expensive barrier to entry. I think the more packs of Polaroid you shoot through this, the more comfortable you'll get and you'll be nailing exposures in no time. With that being said, I'm going to head out with my friend John and shoot a pack to test the limits and see what interesting shots we can gather. Alright, so I picked up the first pack of 8. I was shooting them in, I think, I was expecting it to be 2 dynamic of exposure when I shot them. So for this pack, I'm going to shoot them primarily more so in the shadows during a sunny day. I think that will make them come out a lot better in terms of both the highlights and the shadows. Yeah, I think that's all I really got to say, so let's get into it. Okay, so the SX-70 film used in these cameras is actually completely different than the film that was originally shot. The packs today fluctuate with colors depending on the temperature they were developed at, the manufacturing, and some other smaller but significant elements. Most of the packs lean into a green or magenta hue, which people either find enjoyable or hate it. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it's an interesting aesthetic, but I don't necessarily think it works for or is appropriate for every shot. I've shot probably 6 or 7 packs with colors and exposures varying quite harshly. The light metering in this system is quite different in that it meters the light around the camera, so you want to make sure that the lighting that the camera is in is consistent and is the same lighting of your subject. I definitely learned that the hard way through the first pack. I was shooting too dynamic of scenes to have great exposures with the majority in the first pack. Additionally, the dynamic range and flexibility of this film compared to, say, other C41 films is quite laughable. Interestingly enough, I would advise underexposing the camera as a precautionary versus overexposing as you would with most other C41 films. The highlights tend to get lost and tend to be non-recoverable, whereas the shadows seem to have a little more wiggle room. Another thing that's worth noting is the developing time is quite different than other Polaroids. SX-70 film tends to develop in 15 to 25 minutes, but seems to get even more contrasty hours later, which is something I found to be interesting. Also, you want to make sure you have a safe dark spot to hide the film while you're shooting for it to develop. You're going to want to make sure that you don't mess any of this up when developing, because it can be quite steep when each pack costs just short of $20 and you only get 8 exposures. While the colors aren't perfect and the camera can be difficult to expose perfectly, I think it has a unique and interesting aesthetic to it. From the actual physical design of the camera, the colors the film emits, the actual design of the Polaroid, to the physicality of taking the photo and waiting for it to develop, I think it just has a really unique feel and workflow to it. It's crazy to think that a lot of these Polaroids before digital cameras, they were used to expose and check exposure and composition of shots that people did not want to waste and wait time to develop for 35mm and medium format. It's crazy to think about how far we've come with cameras and how different the uses of these Polaroid cameras had back then to today. If you're looking to grab one of these, I actually got mine last Christmas, so about 6 or 7 months ago, from a place called Brooklyn Film Camera. They specialize specifically in Polaroids and SX-70s, as well as doing repairs, so they're definitely a reputable source to check out. I'm excited to keep shooting packs through this SX-70 and kind of grow my Polaroid collection, as there are many prints that you can hang up on the wall or put into a folder and document things without having to actually go to a print shop and get prints made. But that's it for me. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of SX-70 or Polaroids in general. Have you shot them? Have you had any luck with them? Have the colors been weird? I'd like to know all that discussion down below, because like I said previously, I haven't had the greatest of luck with shooting the Polaroids, but I think they have an interesting kind of niche look to them. I'd love to hear that conversation down in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.